Let's talk some more about flattening the curve. We have Professor John Idoko. He's the former Director General of the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA. He's also an infectious disease specialist. I'd like to thank you for joining us on the program. Professor, let's begin. We've been hearing state governors give a sort of scorecard as to the efforts so far and how they're managing the coronavirus pandemic. What's your take as to the national response to the curve in Nigeria?
Well, I think that the national response has been fairly good, particularly at the center. I guess part of the reason why we have done so well too is perhaps the disease in Nigeria and most of Africa seems to be different from what we see in the West. But there's a lot of good work done at the center. I think that we have a problem at the level of the states because, as you can see, all these issues are about community transmission. And therefore, the efforts that should be put at the level of the communities, I'm not sure whether it's good enough because we should be doing far better than where we are if that is being done. And we can take examples from many other countries that have focused on ensuring that they interrupt transmission at the level of the communities. The awareness is still very poor. Behavior change is very poor. Even in Abuja, where I live, once you get out of the center of Abuja, you hardly see people wearing masks. And given the situation that, there's hardly any social distancing in many of the crowded areas, around Abuja and many of our cities, I think those things are things that are really weighing us down. But all in all, I think that for some reasons that I really don't understand, and I'm not sure whether many other scientists understand, the disease is far less in our communities, and apparently, it seems to be going down, even though it is thought that if we're testing, we'll probably see a lot more. But obviously, if you put all the figures that have been going on in the last few days, it appears as if the disease is, sort of waning off.
Professor, I'd like to ask, minimizing stigma and misinformation about COVID-19 is also very important. People with HIV, for example, have experience in dealing with stigma, and they can also be allies in preventing the COVID-19 stigma, yes? Do you see more people coming out without fear of discrimination?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of where we didn't do so well. HIV and COVID are all epidemics. The only difference is that one has come in an acute fashion. A couple of days you are down with it. And then, initially there was a lot of stigma. But there was so much stigma about HIV that and HIV was a chronic epidemic. The difference here is that unlike what happened in the lessons we learned from HIV, where, we had a lot of people who had the disease, they came out, they were interviewed, particularly when, they came down with the disease, how they got better, Giving the disease a human face is a critical component of behavior change, for the community. And that, I'm not sure, I don't think that's within a lot of that, because we should be seeing people who have had the disease, who will come, and give their testimonies, particularly when they have recovered. They should be interviewed. We should have a lot of them interviewed, like we used to do in, the HIV situation. And I also think that we need to be able to see people who have, there should be a lot more focus on people who have died so that people understand that, this disease, they can contract it. And then because anyone can come down with this disease, if we find not only, people who are top there, coming out and giving testimonies that they have disease, but lower people, because the issues we have now is that a lot of people think that it's just the disease for the rich. But we know that in our communities, poor people are, getting infected
Also
with
at
this
risk.
disease. So
Professor,
we need to put a human face to this disease, just like we did for HIV. And I think that certainly will reduce a lot of the stigma that, is going on.
We appreciate your time on the program. Thank you so much, Professor John Idoko, former DG, NACA, and also an infectious disease specialist. Thank you for joining us on the program.
My pleasure.